To the Premier. Premier, last week your government affirmed your government's commitments to Jordon's Principle. That means that no child and First Nation anywhere in this province will go without services that are necessary for those children to be able to survive within those communities, either by way of social services or health services. If this is the principle that you signed on to, can you tell me why then you're still allowing some 600 kids to be without school as a result of the diesel spill in Attawapiskat, and your government's doing nothing?
Here.
To the Minister of Aboriginal Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the member for the question because it does give me an opportunity to once again say how proud we are as a government to stand with First Nations in making a statement last week declaring that indeed this government will abide by Jordon's Principle. Mr. Speaker, this does put the health of children first in this province ahead of jurisdictional disputes. Now, I'll speak further in the supplementary, Mr. Speaker, about the situation at Attawapiskat, because I probably won't have the time now. But I would say, Mr. Speaker, that the member knows full well there is no jurisdictional dispute with regard to what's going on in Attawapiskat. The First Nation knows that, the federal government knows that, and the provincial government knows that. We are working together in this situation, Mr. Speaker. We do take it seriously, and I'll respond further in the supplementary directly to that.
Supplementary.
Well, you sure have a funny way of showing how you stand in solidarity with First Nations when there's 600 children at Attawapiskat who can't go to school. You've got some 200 people that are ill as a result of the diesel fumes that are emanating from that particular site in Attawapiskat. And what that community has asked you is that the federal government is unwilling to do anything in order to double-check the situation as far as health and safety. They've asked your government to go in with Ministry of Labour, Ministry of the Environment and Ministry of Health in order to ascertain what the health effects are to the kids in that community and the family. This is clearly a jurisdictional dispute. Why don't you live up to your commitments of the Jordon's Principle and go and do what the First Nation has asked you to?
Mr. Speaker, the member should familiarize himself with what Jordon's Principle means, Mr. Speaker. It comes into play when there's a jurisdictional dispute. There's no jurisdictional dispute here. The federal government is responsible for the air quality in Attawapiskat. They know that. They're involved there. The First Nation knows that as well. We've been in touch with the First Nation. They're very much aware of that, Mr. Speaker. But despite that fact, we recognize the seriousness of this situation. We know that the First Nation would like reassurances. The federal government has been doing testing in there. They're doing more, Mr. Speaker. We're reviewing that testing as we committed to, Mr. Speaker, to give the reassurances to the community that, in fact, there are no health problems there. And, Mr. Speaker, there's a third party that's doing testing as well. We will continue to fulfill our responsibility. We will continue to work with the First Nation in Attawapiskat, Mr. Speaker, and we'll continue to work with the federal government, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that those assurances are given.